Hi guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Beth and I am the Bookworm Trait. And before we get into this video, I decided that I wanted to curl my hair for the first time since we went into lockdown. I burnt my thumb, my finger, my ear. So I just hope you appreciate the effort that went into this. So today I am bringing you 10 books that I want to read before the end of the year. And when I came up with this video idea, I know it's super original, I thought that's going to be super easy. I always have loads of books that I want to read that I never get around to reading. I went and had a look at my TBR, my physical TBR, and there were 4 books on there that I was like, I need to read this by the end of the year. So 6 books are books that are either not out yet or books that I want to buy to read before the end of the year. So books that I'm just really intrigued about at the moment. So the first book on this list is my most hyped book of the year. Why I haven't read it yet, I literally could not tell you, probably because I am just a flake. I literally just keep forgetting that I own this book and that this book exists, despite waiting all year for this book to be published. And that is Mexican Gothic. Last year, I pretty much exclusively read YA fantasy, but this year, I feel like horror's my thing. I haven't read much horror, but I just feel like it's my thing. Mexican Gothic is, surprisingly, a gothic story that follows a socialite named Nomi. Nomi receives a letter from her cousin who has married this rich old man, begging her to come and help her. Nomi goes to visit her cousin in this grand old estate and shit happens. I believe this is kind of like a haunted house story, which I just think is so my vibe. I also feel like I'm kind of channeling this book. This book is also one of my 5-star predictions for the year, so I need to finish this book before the end of the year. The next book on my list is another one of my 5-star predictions. This is a book that I have actually started and DNF'd 200 pages in. Why did I DNF it, you ask? I don't know. I have no explanation. I was enjoying this book. I just stopped reading it because reasons. And that book is Crescent City. I don't even know where the dust jacket is to this book. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I found this book underneath my sofa. It is so dirty. As I said, this is another of my 5-star predictions for 2020, and of the 200 pages that I've read, I've really enjoyed it. I think it's going to be a 5-star read. I just need to actually read it and not leave it under my sofa for like 2 months. So Crescent City, in typical Sarah J Maas style, is a fantasy with a lot of romance in it. They don't read like paranormal romances, which I often find lack story and world building in favour of focusing on a relationship. I feel like anyway, Sarah J Maas is able to give us both. And of what I've read of Crescent City, this is no exception. So Crescent City follows a half-fae called Bryce, who after witnessing a traumatic event, and I'm not going to say what it is because although it is literally listed in the blurb, I feel like it is a massive spoiler and I feel like not knowing it adds more to the story. So Bryce witnesses this traumatic event and she is asked to find out how this happened. Bryce is a wild party girl with very little talent when it comes to magic, so she is given a bodyguard of a fallen angel called Hunt. As I said, I really enjoyed what I've read of Crescent City. I believe I'm going to enjoy it even more if I actually continue reading it. I am obsessed with the fan art for this book. Like, I should not be looking at it because spoilers, but obsessed. And again, I'm matching. The next book on my physical list is a book that has been on my TBR for a long time. I'm not sure exactly how long. I want to say at least a year. And that is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. Into the Drowning Deep follows a group of TV people. Let me try again. So Into the Drowning Deep follows a TV production team who are trying to make a mockumentary about mermaids. However, they are lost at sea. And so a new crew is assembled and sent out to find them. But it seems like the original team may have found evidence that mermaids are real. So the first thing I want to say is, and I think I have said this in a video before, there is a real life mockumentary about mermaids. I think it's called Mermaids: The True Story. I watched that mockumentary not knowing it was fake. And I was convinced that mermaids were real. Because I am dumb. I love mermaid books. I don't know why. I wouldn't say mermaids are my favourite fictional creature, but I just love mermaid books. Maybe I just love books about the sea. I don't know. But I love mermaid books. I love dark books and I love gory books. And I think this is all three. Again, matching. I've heard really great things about this. I have been dying to read this since I bought it. So I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. It was kind of another book that I just forgot I owned. So doing this list reminded me, and I cannot wait to pick this up, and hopefully that will be before the end of the year. And the next book is one of my most recent purchases, and that is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is an author that I have been dying to pick up for so long, but the size of the 5th season puts me off. I don't actually even know how long it is. It just always looks really big when people hold it up in videos, so that puts me off. But this one doesn't look as big. It looks manageable. It looks a good, healthy size. The City We Became is basically a book about New York City coming to life, and I think there's like a river monster. Is New York on the sea? Is New York an island? I don't know anything about America. There's like a river monster or a sea monster. I don't know if there is a seashore in New York, but you know what I mean, a water monster. And I think this water monster is trying to stop New York from becoming like a sentient being. It sounds weird. I love me a weird book. I think it's going to be 5 stars. I'm really keen to get to this one soon before the end of the year, because that's what this video is all about. So those are all the books from my physical TBR. So we're going to move on to books that I don't own but want to own, and books that aren't out yet but I want to get. Oh, that rhymed. The first book is House in the Cerulean Sea, which is a book that is super hyped at the moment. And this book is about 6 children who live in this orphanage and have magical abilities. And they are being investigated to find out if they are going to cause the end of the world. Love me a magic school. Orphanage, magic school, kind of same thing. And love me some end of the world drama too. I've heard so many great things about this book. I've heard the writing is really beautiful, and that is something that I absolutely love. And I would really like to read this, and I feel like if I don't read this book soon, it will disappear into my brain and I will never think of it again and I will never read it. So we're putting it on this list in the hopes that it will actually force me to read it. The next book is a book that is out but I haven't bought yet, and that is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Now, I recently read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix and it was amazing. I loved it. Could be a contender for top book of the year. Not top book, but top books of the year. Last year I read Horror Store and I loved that too, so I really want to read this book because I just feel like I'm going to love it. I feel like it's going to be a 5 stars. We just need more Grady Hendrix in our lives. So this book follows a lady called Patricia who has a very humdrum life. The only thing that really brings her joy is her book club. One day, a handsome stranger moves into the neighbourhood and ends up joining their book club. And although there is initially a spark between James and Patricia, she soon realises that he's a bit weird. I'm planning on reading this book in October, as that is the season for spooky books. And so I think this is one of the ones that I am most sure will get read before the end of the year. Next, we are going to take a little diversion into Beth's Secret Smut Love. So usually with my romance, I just wait until I'm in the mood for a romance and then I'll just pick up whatever fills the tropes that I am in the mood for at that time. But I have been reading the Wicked Villain series and I just really like them. They are all dark romance books with BDSM themes to them and I'm here for it. I believe this one is female-female, but it might be female-female-male because Katie Roberts does love her polyamory. And I think it centres around the virginity auction, so, you know, just your usual everyday stuff. This book is out on the 7th of September. I do have it on pre-order, so it will just drop itself straight in my Kindle. And I'll probably pick it up quite soon after it comes out. So this is another one that's very, very likely to be read before the end of the year, unless I just go off romance, which could happen too. The next book is a book that I've had my eye on for some time, not only because it sounds really interesting, but it is also stunning, and that is The Dreamers. I love books that straddle the lines between fantasy and sci-fi, and I believe that The Dreamers is one of these books. So The Dreamers is set in a town where people find themselves trapped in sleep. And that's all I know about the plot of the book, but I've heard that this is another book that is very beautifully written. I'm always really interested in books that look at the concept of dreaming. I have really, really vivid dreams and I lucid dream sometimes as well. And so I think that's the reason that I just find the concept of dreams in books really interesting. For me, there's a couple of things that if a book has it, it's an instant pickup for me. And those are anything to do with dreams or like memories as well. Anything to do with libraries and anything that is like dark and whimsical, those two together. Any book that has any of those three things in is an instant 5-star prediction and an instant I want to read. The next book is another book that I've had my eye on for a very, very long time. I think it is one of the oldest books on my TBR, but it's getting a lot of hype recently and I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time for me to read this book, and that is City of Brass. Now, I'm not ready to pick this book up just yet because I am slowly getting back into my fantasy, and City of Brass is an adult fantasy set in a fantasy world, and I don't want to pick it up until I'm quite ready to get all the way back in. But I'm working on it, and once we're there, this book is going to get read. Now, please excuse me if I get the name wrong for this character. I believe her name is pronounced Nari. And Nari lives in Cairo and she has some magical powers. I can't remember what they are. I feel like it's divination of some sort. And she uses her powers to basically steal from people, like trick people into parting with their money. Now, one day she is up to her usual tricks and she ends up summoning a djinn. And this djinn ends up convincing her to travel with him to the City of Brass. That's about all I know about this book, and to be honest, I think that's as much as I need to know. I do like to go into my books fairly blind, so that works for me. But I love the idea of reading a fantasy, like a high fantasy, which isn't based on the Western tradition. So I'm sick to death of reading medieval fantasy. And so I think it's going to be super interesting to read something based on a culture that is not a culture that I am so familiar with. And the last book on the list, kind of a cop-out, because I plan to read this book later on this month, but I haven't read it yet, and I do plan to read it before the end of the year, and that is The Whisper Man. Now, The Whisper Man is a crime novel, but I feel like it's got ghosty vibes to it, which I want the ghost stories. And it is about a serial killer called the Whisper Man. Now 15 years ago there was a serial killer called the Whisper Man, but he was caught, brought to trial, and has been in prison ever since. However, the murders have recently started up again. That is obviously a very short synopsis, but I feel like with these kind of books, the less you know, the better. And even like knowing that it's a crime novel and not just a straight up horror is even a spoiler to me. So I've just spoiled myself. As I said earlier in this video, I really feel like horror is my thing, even though I haven't read any horror. I keep saying this, but I'm yet to read any like proper horror books. I've read like some gore, I've read some like horror parody. I'm sure I read another horror, but I can't remember. But I just feel like I want that scary ghosty vibes. So I feel like me and Alex North, I feel like he's delivering what I want. Maybe. Okay guys, so those are the 10 books that I want to read before the end of the year. Pray for me that I read them all and that I don't just like immediately forget about them after filming this video. If you have read any of these books, if you have any recommendations for me, or if there are any books that you are hoping to get to before the end of the year, please let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, then give me a like and subscribe if you want to. Thanks for watching. Bye.